Hi guys, my name is Amaan Sangani. You may know me as the boy who bakes. I have partnered up with Chokolaate Magazine to bring you special recipes. Today we will be making a Christmas themed recipe, which is mint chocolate chip profiteroles. So let's begin. Okay, so firstly we are going to start off with the filling because that needs some time to cool. So over here I have about 80 grams of dark chocolate and I've kept it in the fridge for the past hour so it gets cold, because you do not want the chocolate pieces to be too big, because if it is too big then when you go to pipe it, it will get stuck. So I have some cold chocolate here and box grater. I'm using smaller grates because I again want smaller pieces so I don't clog up the piping bag. So I just take it and I start getting my chocolate shavings. I just put this over a wooden cutting board to make it easier. And you just want to keep grating all 80 grams of your chocolate. Okay, so after quite a bit of grating, you should have a pile of chocolate shavings. Now you want to directly put this into the fridge because it's really small pieces, so you do not want this to melt at all. So next we're going to move on to the cream part. So I'm using an electric stand mixer. You can use a hand mixer or you can do it by a whisk, but it will take some elbow grease. So over here I have 1 cup of whipping cream. I'm just going to put it in here. Next I have 3 tablespoons of icing sugar going in. And over here I have 1.5 teaspoons of mint extract and half a teaspoon of green food coloring. And once that's all in, you just want to close the lid and whip it until you get soft peaks. So as you can see here, I have medium to, it's almost stiff but it's soft. That's the kind of consistency you want, because once you add the chocolate it's just going to get thicker. So now you want to take out the chocolate from the fridge and put it into this. So now that your cream is at a really nice soft peak consistency, you want to take all your chocolate shavings and just put it in. And after all that is in, you do not want to mix at this point, you just want to fold it all in. So then what happens is you're not mixing it, so you're not incorporating any more air, so that stops the cream from separating. Okay, now that all your chocolate is mixed in, you should have a nice thick filling like this. So now you want to take a spoon and take a small taste, because the concentration of the mint extract can change from brand to brand, or like the bitterness of the chocolate. So all of that affects the taste. So you want to taste it and adjust it to how you like. Yeah, so that tastes perfect to me. I'm just gonna keep this in the fridge until we're ready. And now we can move on to the puffs. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the choux pastry, which is the puff. So in this pot I have 1 cup of water, and over here I have half a cup of butter that I'm just going to put in. Along with that I have 2 tablespoons of brown sugar and 1 teaspoon of salt. And over here I have 1 teaspoon of the green coloring and again half teaspoon of the mint flavor. I add a bit over here because it just amplifies the flavor of the filling and makes it much tastier. And now you just want to put it on medium-high heat and let it come to a simmer. Okay, now that your butter water mixture is boiling, you want to reduce the heat to low, and over here I have 1 cup of flour that I'm going to add to this. And as soon as you add that, you want to mix real quick and form it into a bit of a dough. Once you can see it forming into sort of a ball like this, you want to off the heat and just keep mixing it until you open up all of those flour pockets and it comes into a bit of a ball. And it may look pretty dark now, but then once we add the eggs and once we bake, the color will lighten up. That's why we add so much at the start. Okay, now that this is done, we want to let this cool for about 10 minutes. Now that your dough has cooled for about 2 to 5 minutes, we can add the eggs. I'm using an electric stand mixer again because it's easier. But then you could add your eggs to this and mix it by hand with a wooden spoon. That's also fine, but it just requires a lot of elbow grease. So I've added my dough into my stand mixer bowl, and I'm putting on the paddle attachment because I don't want to whip air into it, I just want to mix the eggs. Okay. So I'm going to keep it on a low speed. And I have 3 eggs here. You want to crack your eggs into a different bowl. Don't crack it directly into this. You actually destroy it, or you could get shells in, which you do not want. So I'm going to crack my eggs into a different bowl here, and then add them one by one until each addition is incorporated. So now I'm going to add my first egg and let that mix. It will look like it's separating, but then after some time it will actually come together. That's how it looks, because that contains a lot of fat and your eggs are basically water, so they do not mix well. So you need to let it mix on a low speed until it all comes together. Yep, once the first egg is all mixed in, you want to add your second egg. That my second egg has been fully mixed in, I'm going to take my third egg and add it in. Okay, now you want to have an extra egg on standby all the time, because everything affects this, the size of your eggs, how dry your flour is. So you need to see the consistency of the batter before you decide that you're done. Once it's mixed in, I will show you what the consistency should be. Okay, now that my batter is all mixed in, I can show you guys the consistency. So for this, to check the consistency, you want to get a wooden spoon, because that will show it to you best. So I just have the wooden spoon I used before. Okay, give it a small mix by hand first to get, because the machine sometimes doesn't get like the bottom and stuff, and you want to get all of that. Okay, and once it's properly mixed through, you want to take a big dollop and you want to just drop it, and you can see like it just drops off and like creates like a triangle. That means you do not need to add any more eggs. If it's really thick and it just drops off without creating like that triangle and stuff, then you might need to add more eggs. So just add like half an egg at a time until you get this consistency. Okay, now that our choux pastry is done, I have a baking tray here, and into this I just added a silicone mat. I prefer to use that. You can use baking paper, parchment paper, non-stick paper, whatever you want. And over here I have a reusable piping bag. You can use a plastic one again, but then I just don't like using so much plastic. And you want to fill your piping bag, but don't fill it too much, because if you overfill it and you start piping, it could just squirt out from the back, and you do not want that to happen. Okay, now that you have your piping bag filled, you want to pipe about 1-inch dollops. You do not want to put them too close because they do spread out a lot. And you can actually make this whatever size you want. I just prefer this size because it's like the perfect size. But you can make like mini ones, you can make larger ones, that's all up to you. And like you really don't want to put them close because they do puff up a lot. And like don't try to crowd them up too much. Okay, now that you've piped out all of your puffs, you want to wet your finger in a bit of water and just push these tips down, because when they're jutting out like that in the oven, they can tend to burn. But make sure your fingers are wet, because otherwise the dough will stick to your hand. Okay, now that all of your puffs have been piped out and you've watered them down, you want to pop them into a 220 degrees Celsius oven for 17 minutes, and then reduce the temperature to 190 degrees Celsius and bake for another 17 minutes. And after they have baked, you want to let them cool down in the oven itself for about half an hour, and then take them out and let them cool down to room temperature. And you want them to cool down properly, because if they're still warm and you pipe a filling in, the filling will just melt and come out, and you do not want that. Okay, now that your puffs have baked and cooled, you want to take a small sharp knife and you just want to make a hole in the bottom so it's easier for you to put the filling in. Okay, once you've made the holes on the bottom of all of your puffs, I have just scooped the filling into a piping bag, and I've added a tip that's used for like inserting fillings into stuff. I do not know the number of this tip. So what you just have to do is you take a piping bag and you put it into the hole that you just made, and you start filling. And you want to keep adding pressure until you feel the profiterole get a bit heavier. You do not want to overfill it, because if you overfill it, it will just start jutting out. And you just want to feel like you can feel it getting heavier. And once you fill that, you just fill all of your other profiteroles. Okay, now that all of my puffs have been filled, now we move on to decoration, which is my favorite part. So over here I have some white chocolate. I have about 100 grams. So now I'm going to melt this in the microwave. You want to put it in for 30 seconds at first, mix it, 20 seconds, mix it, 10 seconds, and then from there onwards only 10 seconds. You do not want to increase it, because otherwise you could burn your chocolate. Okay, now that your white chocolate is melted and all nice and small, now we need to color this. To color it, I have a gel based red color food coloring. Now for the coloring chocolate, you have to use either an oil based color or a nice gel color that is not water based, because if you put the normal liquid food coloring into chocolate, it will seize and just get very lumpy and like grainy and hard, and you do not want that, because chocolate hates water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add half a teaspoon of coloring and mix, and then after that I'll see if I need more or how much I need, because it all depends on how much food coloring you actually put in. I like a nice bright red. Okay, so after adding some more coloring, I've gotten a nice color. But as you can see here, my chocolate has suddenly, it's gotten thicker and it looks like it's setting. So it could be for two reasons. One, because of the food coloring. Like I said, chocolate does not like water. So if there's like a small amount of water in that, it could react to this. Or it could be because of its setting in your environment. Maybe it's a cool day or something. So what you want to do is microwave this for 10 seconds. If it still does not get smoother, you want to add about a teaspoon of oil at a time and mix it until it becomes smooth again. Okay, so I've added a little bit of oil, and as you can see, the chocolate has become nice and smooth again. It's a nice bright red color. I personally prefer using vegetable oil, because many people use coconut oil, but I do not like it, because I feel like you can taste the coconut oil, whereas vegetable oil is a nice neutral flavor, so you do not taste it. So once your chocolate is melted, you just want to take your puff and just dip it into the chocolate, and then you want to shake the excess off of it. And there you go. So you want to do that to all of your profiteroles. Okay, now that we've dipped all of our profiteroles, you can let them set, or you can just eat them like that. It will be a bit messy if you eat it right now, because the chocolate is still not set. But then if you want, you can also add anything more on top. I just like to leave it plain like this, because it just looks simple and nice. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you do make this, remember to tag me at The Boy Who Bakes and at Chokolaate Magazine. Thank you.